All right, Simon. I think if people are trickling in here, we should be able to get underway. Thank you all again for joining today's call. We're going to focus on the challenges of today's evolving workplace and workforce. So organizations large and small in every vertical and field have experienced changes in their technical landscape, especially in the last couple of years. I know today's topic is going to resonate with everyone. So before we get underway, I did want to do some quick introductions. Simon Dion is a senior solutions engineer. He helps customers through the entire Exoprise workflow. So from onboarding to deployment to maintenance, Simon is great about helping teams get the most out of their Exoprise subscription.
Hey,
And I've gotten the chance to work with a number of you in the past, but my name is Brad Seville. I'm a customer success manager here. I'm focused on making sure our customers are using Exoprise to its full potential within their unique infrastructure. So a bit more on the agenda we'll be covering today. We'll be discussing some of the workplace trends we've come across through surveys, interviews, and working directly with customers. Most importantly, how those trends impact your users' digital experience. With the constantly evolving workplace, we'll cover the value of combining proactive monitoring with a complete 360-degree coverage. One specific complication that's come for IT teams with the more complex workplace is the lack of network visibility. So in this specific area, we're going to drill down how to identify those network problems. And then on the Exoprise side, we'll highlight how to build dashboards that provide you the metrics and data needed for your users, your applications, and your networks. And there will definitely be time to open up the floor to questions. So for that portion of the call, you can submit questions using the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen. They're answered on a first come, first serve basis. So feel free to just send those in as they come up, and we'll get to them at the end of the call and give everybody a few minutes to get their questions answered. So we're going to start by covering the breakdown of the modern workforce. I did want to mention as we get into the next few slides where I'm going to cover statistics, trends, and data. The numbers come from both internal and external surveys. So either Simon or I will share the links if you're interested in the methodology or even the full results. But the pie chart here is illustrating the breakdown of full-time employees in their current work situation. So 21% are fully remote, 40% are fully in the office, and that yellow slice, which has been increasing year over year, are in some type of hybrid arrangement. This is making up 39%. As everyone knows, if this survey was conducted even just a couple of years ago, the orange and yellow slices would make up a much smaller portion of this. Every department has felt the impact of this shift, but IT especially. It's on you to make sure employees' applications and devices run smoothly, no matter where they work. These users are now connected to networks that you don't own and don't necessarily have visibility into. This makes it significantly more difficult to diagnose issues. Getting to the root cause of these problems is more time consuming and therefore more expensive. This is causing teams to try and piece together different tools that have different features to get a complete picture. And in a time where IT budgets seem to be tightening, using multiple monitoring tools isn't always a realistic option. So moving from the workforce into a bit of the security, over 60% of respondents use a VPN or a proxy solution for work. This underscores the importance of secure and private connections in remote work settings. Well, security is absolutely necessary, whether VPN or some other measure. There's no denying it's impacting users. 35% of our respondents said that they felt security hindered their digital performance. Whether it's perceived by the end user or not, the security measures organizations take do end up affecting the digital experience of the workforce. That's why even the security solutions do require monitoring. So moving from the workforce and the security measures protecting them to the actual applications they use on a day-to-day, the move from traditional on-prem solutions to cloud-based applications was well underway by 2019, but the pandemic definitely did speed up this transition. Almost everything is SaaS-based. U.S. companies alone spent 250 billion on cloud solutions in 2023. It's easy to see how. I'd guess that everyone on the call is using a handful, if not all, the applications highlighted here on the slide. While the move to the cloud does make things easier in a lot of respects, there are challenges that arise when applications are hosted outside an IT department's control. It becomes much more difficult to get a holistic view of what users are experiencing. Ensuring the best possible digital experience can require application-specific specialists, coordination with vendors. This all leads to longer average diagnostic times. And all of this requires additional resources, which in the end of the day costs the company additional money. And this is just from IT's perspective. The employees having trouble moving between applications with outside network issues or with slow performance. They're spending time not doing their job and focusing on these technology issues. Having great employee digital experience and a concrete way for IT to monitor it impacts the company's bottom line in more ways than you would initially think. So of all the SaaS application sets, the fastest growing are the unified communication and collaboration tools. So we wanted to drill specifically into UC&C solutions, since every company is using a tool, if not a handful of tools, as part of their day-to-day. Unified communications is easily where we get the most support tickets and questions from customers. This is because they have become absolutely vital to maintaining a productive, focused, and collaborative workforce. And on the flip side, getting visibility into UC apps is not always easy, and the data is not always available. When someone calls in and says, "Hey, my team's meeting was horrible. Can you fix it?" I mean, where do you start? It can be difficult to even determine who is responsible for an issue when it comes up. So our next slide is a bit more on the breakdown of the responsibilities. These are the figures we found from our surveys, but obviously it depends on the internal workflow of each individual organization. The real goal here is that we're trying to illustrate is that poor digital experience impacts a ton of different people. The first thing that comes to mind is the cost associated with having all these teams work on technical issues. And a lot of the time they're working on the same technical issues. One of the most frequent things we hear from companies adopting Exoprise is we're just tired of the finger pointing between teams. The amount of time wasted between teams trying to figure out who is responsible for solving an issue, whether it's device, user, application, or network, this time adds up quickly. And from there, who does the issue get escalated to? It's incredibly important to get the team that is responsible for the issue involved as quickly as possible. This gets the end user back to doing their job and being as productive as possible. So Simon's going to get into the specifics in a few minutes on the network monitoring, but I did want to go over some of the findings we had from the survey. Well, there are a lot of tools designated to reporting on applications. Very few provide the visibility the network teams require. This graph highlights a number of areas tools are failing them, but lack of visibility is the leading category. With the increasing flexibility of where employees are working from, a lack of options in this space becomes a major issue. I've gone over some of the trends and complexities that come with a shifting workforce, but Simon is going to go over the unique way that Exoprise can help you keep up with these types of challenges.
Hey, awesome. Thanks, Brad. As you can tell, there's quite a few moving pieces when it comes to the modern workplace. Maintaining and monitoring it all is a pretty heavy lift, but we're here to help. By combining CloudReady and Service Watch, engineers gain the holistic visibility they need to accomplish their goals. Whether a SaaS resource is performing poorly or not at all, or if a user reports issues with their devices, performance, poor working experience at home, or just general application complaints, engineers have all the relevant information at their fingertips, expediting their work, allowing them to spend less time working on user impacting issues and focus time on more important projects and day-to-day activities. For those not familiar with our solution, our CloudReady synthetics provide proactive notifications when services are impacted, no matter if the issue is related to the internal network, across the internet, or the solution provider itself. CloudReady will detect it and notify the required resources. For monitoring the user's devices, Service Watch can be deployed, and whenever the user is active on the device, the performance metrics of it, the application, and network are captured and made available in near real time. When a user calls in with issues, engineers can quickly review what is occurring on the device, track the ISP's performance, and the network telemetry of applications to know exactly where issues are stemming from, exponentially reducing mean times to resolution. Service Watch can also be deployed with active tests. These low-level network tests can be configured to verify access to a resource via ping or wget, while the VoIP tests are extremely efficient at detecting network degradation between the devices and the designated receiver. These lightweight network tests do a really good job at identifying performance issues, typically ahead of users reporting that they're being impacted. With our solutions deployed, when a network issue is experienced by the platform, an alarm is raised, which can be emailed or create a ticket via integration. At this point, an engineer would begin diagnosing the issue by either reviewing the sensor or the devices impacted. They can identify the start of an outage with the graph and compare their sensors data to the crowd to see if everyone is being impacted, or if it's an internal to the tenant or the location itself. If the issue appears to be network related, the network path performance can be reviewed to pinpoint exactly where the performance is dropping. When a device-related alarm is raised or a user reports an issue, engineers can quickly pull up a user's device and review the device, application, ISP's performance, and connectivity. With the performance metrics conveniently scored and trending data made available, engineers can identify the root cause of issues, in turn resolving the issue faster, allowing the affected user to get back to their daily activities. To speed up these troubleshooting steps even further, dashboards can be custom tailored to personas, such as a help desk dashboard to quickly review and pull up devices, or an app owner specific dashboard detailing the performance of an application over a period of time. What if you wanted a dashboard specific to Teams or Outlook performance and availability? You can easily accomplish this with our dashboards, and we'll show you these in the product momentarily. Before we jump into the product though, I just wanted to show some examples of what alarms contain when they trigger. As I mentioned earlier, these alarms can be configured to email, use one of our integrations, or use a web or email hook. Now let's go ahead and jump into the product and bring this up over here. So when you're starting off with Exoprise, you're going to be presented with these out-of-the-box dashboards, which provide you with overall health of the environment, devices, and the network. You can quickly access one of the CloudReady synthetics from here. Once you're logged in, you can just select it from the list in the heat map here. Whoa. And when you pull it up, you'll be presented with all of the information collected by the sensor each time it runs. Now, one of the important things to note here is that each one of our sensors is crowdsourced. This means that you are able to compare yourself to everyone else that's utilizing the sensor. Nice thing about this is if, like in this example, Teams is having a problem, if it's on like the Microsoft side, then everyone would be impacted. You would see everything trending upwards along with the crowd. Whereas if you're the only one that's spiking, like in this case here, then it's something more related to something internal with your tenant or location or whatever. Each one of the tabs at the top is going to contain a different set of metrics, and the alarms are automatically generated for these sensors when you deploy them. So if the sensor is not running, if it's timing out, if login is taking too long, you're going to get these notifications sent over to you. And if you need to inspect any of the information for like slowdowns, if you want to see how the performance is trending, you can always select one of the data points in here and then go to the network path performance. And this will give you a detailed hop by hop view of the connectivity from Teams in this case, because this is a Teams AV sensor. So this will help you figure out where there's slowdowns, if there's slowdowns internal to the network, external, is it slowing down once it reaches the Microsoft infrastructure? So all that information is really easy to visualize in here. Now switching back over to the dashboards for Service Watch, you also get these. From here, you're going to score all the devices. You can group devices together, so you can put all the machines at one location into a group, or all the machines in one region, however you want to do it. And you can score the devices based on groups or individual machines. When you pull up an individual machine, you're presented with the reliability information. So this will show you if there's any application crashes, Windows updates, slow application starts, that kind of stuff. And then on the left here, you'll see the active test information for Service Watch's active tests. The browser data, network latency, and network utilization are available, as well as the scoring for the machine. So each one of the metrics is scored. You can see how well the machine's performing with a just quick glance at the screen. And then each one of the metrics for that, the CPU, disk, memory, all that is made available down here, along with the Wi-Fi signal utilization and Ethernet utilization. So if people are having connectivity issues, you can typically see that in here. So if they're too far away from the wireless access point, Wi-Fi is dropping, whatever, that's gonna show up in here. Now, as far as application information goes, we have the core apps and top apps at the bottom. Top apps are the top 10 applications on the device that are using resources. Core apps are the business critical applications. So that's going to be your Zoom, your Teams, your Outlook, all that. And you can go in here, get more granular metrics as far as the resource usage. And then under the connected and stream networking, you're going to see the applications network telemetry. So you'll see the different applications here. So the connected networking is going to be TCP data, streamed is going to be UDP data. And in here, we should actually be able to see the Zoom call that we're on here. Yep, that's it right there. So in here, you're going to get a nice breakdown of the connectivity to the application. And then under the trace details, you can get more, a little bit different of a view, giving you the hop by hop rather than just the generic steps that it's taking. So that's your Service Watch and CloudReady just overview. Going back into the dashboards, the out-of-box dashboards provide you with a great holistic view, but can be refined for specific use cases. Spending a bit of time configuring a role-specific or app-specific dashboard can go a long way in making things easier. And here are some examples. So first up is going to be the Teams dashboard here. When we drill down into this, it's going to provide you the health and performance for teams across the organization, both from a synthetic and user point of view. On the left side, we have our synthetic status or health. And then on the right, we separate everything for the Service Watch aspect for the end user's devices. And in here, you can see like the events for teams, like the crashes, updates, and stuff like that. You can see the telemetry for the traffic, right? How well it's performing for UDP traffic. And then I have different statistics listed out here. You can also easily pull up a device from here by selecting it. So it just makes things easier. You can see everything from one place. Now, earlier I mentioned the dashboard for Teams and Outlook, right? So here's just that. It's very basic, very simple, but you have the Teams performance, network performance, and just resource usage on the right, and then Outlook on the left. Same information, TCP versus UDP traffic, right? Because TCP is going to be more broadly used on Outlook, whereas UDP is going to be more used on the Teams side. We heard a lot of customers asking for actionable dashboards, so we wanted to present one. This is just really easy to configure, really easy to use. On the left side, again, you have your CloudReady alarms, where you can see the alarms. From here, you can drill down into them, see if they're still happening. And from here, you can also pull up the sensor. And you can also get a list of all the sensors down here if you want to pull up any of them, if you wanted to compare something or have access to them, right? And then same thing with the right side, we have our Service Watch alarms and then the user's device information. So if I wanted to pull up a user that's having issues, I can select them from here, or I can search for them in the top with the magnifying glass by device name or username and be able to quickly pull up their machine. Last dashboard I wanted to cover, this is more focused on networking. This dashboard is going to combine the data from the network sensors such as ping or VoIP, the DNS sensors, and along with the ISP network and VPN client performance information from Service Watch, it'll be all combined in here. And if a network change is made, a dashboard can quickly reflect this, so you can watch this and see how the performance is trending after a change is made. If you have your alarms configured, you can get notifications for those as well. Really nice thing about this too is when a user is working from home, engineers can quickly rule out a user's home network, ISP, device, or app, depending on the issue, all from one screen. So you're able to really simplify and speed up that diagnostics portion of troubleshooting an issue. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to Brad. He's going to cover some other slides before we open up the Q&A.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over these last couple slides, but these are your bullets for ROI. The important takeaway really is with real user monitoring, teams can figure out and solve a user issue quickly. This just gets the employee back to their job as soon as possible. Obviously, there are cost savings beyond just the time spent by the technical professionals, as we talked about. And now one more slide before we jump in the Q&A is on our integrations. So Exoprise isn't designed to completely change how you work today. We fit into and enhance your current workflow. And this is an area we put a lot of resources in since it does matter to our end users. So we have several integrations available now. Most recently added ServiceNow and ConnectWise. And our alarms can be configured to go through any ITSM used today. So I know we do have some questions. Just a reminder, please submit using the Q&A feature on the bottom of the page here, and they'll be answered in a first come, first served basis. But Simon, to lead off, is Service Watch part of a trial?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So with a trial, you'll be able to deploy 25 Service Watch desktop devices. And then you have one Teams AV sensor and then 3 additional sensors that you can deploy. Nice thing about the trial is you can rip and replace, right? Move them around however you want to test things out. Another thing too is we like to meet if you're in the middle of a trial about a week after you start it and get things deployed. If you want to review the data, definitely reach out. We can go through it with you. One of our engineers can help with that.
I think that's an important best practice is connecting during that trial period. So once you do take out a trial, we can take that offline and meet during your trial period to make sure we're all on the same page and you're making the most out of the trial period. So Simon, the next question, I think we actually could show it in the product, but how resource intensive is Exoprise?
It doesn't use much in terms of resources. We do track it inside. So if I pull up your machine, Brad, the core application should show it in here, but if not, it's because it's not using enough resources. Yeah, so it's not even triggering enough. What about in the top apps over here? Yeah, so it's using on average 91% of the time it's using 1.1% CPU. So it's not using much at all. If there's more going on the device, if you have synthetics running on it, it's gonna use more resources, but it's never enough. It should never be enough to impact a user that's working on that. And the other thing too is we do offer public sites for synthetics, so you can run pretty much any of our sensors from there except for the Teams AV and I believe Azure Virtual Desktop. But all the other ones can be ran from public sites. So if you needed to test something external to your network or anything like that, that's possible as well.
Perfect. And then this is on the dashboards. So we do use multiple communications tools, some internal and some for external meetings. Could we build a dashboard for each of the tools?
Absolutely. So if I switch back over here, you should actually see, maybe it's not on this one, but I have the NOC dashboard over here where I'm combining everything for Zoom on one dashboard. And then under the Teams AV Health, there's Teams AV information. So you can absolutely split them up. You can show the user information. Say, we're collecting with Service Watch most of the UC apps. If there's something you see that's missing in there, definitely reach out to us, but everything should be in there for the day-to-day stuff that's used by most organizations.
And as Simon mentioned during the presentation, that this is something we could help you with is building these dashboards. So if you had something in mind for UC apps or different users, let us know and we can schedule a session to really work through this in your environment. Just a reminder, the Q&A is at the bottom of the page. Feel free to submit a question there. But the next question is a little bit more general, Simon. It's where do deploy or where do sensors deploy?
So you can deploy synthetics to Service Watch machines. You can deploy them to private sites. You can deploy them to public sites, which are hosted by us. Really, the main thing is that you want to, for a private site, use a Windows machine. Usually 4 cores, 8 gigs of memory is more than enough to run pretty much every sensor. But it's really just going to depend on the presence you have and where you want to be able to monitor from. We recommend where you have heavy traffic, right? Where there's a lot of users working from for the synthetics. That way, if there's an issue, you can get the proactive notification that something's going on and notify those users and have a pretty good idea of what's going on in the environment just in general.
If anybody wants more clarity or needs more details on any of these questions they've asked, just let us know. We can dive in a little bit deeper. But the next one's about device groups. You talked about grouping devices into certain categories. Could we do it by ISP?
Yeah, we actually do it by ISP out of the box. We're going to identify the ISP of devices and group them together. Based on that, here, let me pull up this dashboard here to show you. So in here, we have the different ISPs for our devices and where they're coming in from. And you can also change this to show the network types, right? So internal networks or whatever you have. We're detecting these and grouping the devices together. So if I click into one of these here, I'll get a list of the devices that are using it, and then one more. So you can get the information from here. Same thing with the ISP. You can see the devices in here.
Great. And this is a workflow question, actually. It's just, I get a call from an employee who said they have an issue. Where do I start?
It really kind of depends, right? If they're complaining about, let's say, something like Teams, right? The first thing I would start off doing is checking the sensor, making sure everything's okay in the environment, right? Teams isn't having problems. It's not reporting any login issues, jitter, packet loss, anything like that. So from the sensor, I would then pull up the user's device. So in this case, I'll use my machine here. And here we have the different information for what's going on the machine, right? And you can take a look, see if maybe the Wi-Fi is dropping, maybe they're having high CPU. If it's Teams, you can go in here, select the Teams application to drill down into it. Where is it? I'm going blind. Oh, it's not using enough resources on here to show up in the apps. So if it was Teams, you'd be able to pull it up in here, see the information, and then under the stream networking, you'll get the connectivity information. So if it's not the resources on the machine, it's not the resources being utilized by the application, it's more than likely going to be something with the network, which is where you're going to be able to drill down here and see Zoom and Teams and whatever other applications that you're monitoring for, right? So here's Teams. It just hasn't been doing much in there today. So let's switch this. You can see if there's any slowdowns or anything that's happening. And I can use the filters here to quickly find, the max packet loss, max jitter, highest round trip times. All that's going to be made available in these views.
And this goes to what we discussed a little bit, is finding that the root cause of an issue quickly. This just saves a ton of time, stops that finger pointing process of, that circle that teams end up in of trying to figure out who has to deal with the problem. This is just a great way to diagnose quickly.
Yeah, and kind of to that point, right, or to what I was saying earlier about the dashboards, you could put all this information into one dashboard. So instead of jumping from the sensor to the machine to look at the connectivity information for the machine, you could have all that visible in one place and just use like filters or find the right machines and sensors to compare everything into from all one screen.
Next question is, we don't have an employee designated checking dashboards daily. What are the options for our team to be notified if something is going wrong?
So for notifications, it's going to be the alarms, right? So whether you use emails, integrations through the ticketing systems, the webhooks, email hooks, that kind of stuff, you want to get those configured so that the right notifications are going to the right teams, the right people, so that they get worked. On top of that, we do offer the ability to embed dashboards into like Teams or pretty much anything that supports iframes. So the nice thing about that is you can make it so everyone can see one of your dashboards that highlights the current status of an application or a network or whatever. So if ever they are wondering if something's happening, they can just go into that embedded dashboard and take a look at it and get an idea of if where they're working from is affected by something. And then we also have reports, right? We have a weekly report that can be configured. So if you have someone that's just looking to keep track of analytics, if you have someone who just wants to know how everything performed over the last 30 days, you can configure a weekly report to send a dashboard. So you configure the dashboard with the information you want, set it as your weekly report, and you get that on every week with all the information from the dashboard. There's a couple different ways to get the information.
It's really customizable to get the information in front of the right people. I know a lot of teams aren't going to have someone just sitting and staring at a dashboard all day, so that's really the best practice of getting the correct information out.
Oh, for
So
sure.
one more question. Feel free to keep submitting. We have time for more, but we do have one more question. For monitoring our security tools, would you use Synthetics or Service Watch?
Both, really. So you could use the Service Watch to monitor the applications on the device, right? Like your antivirus, your VPN clients, VDI clients, whatever you're using, right? And like I said, most of those should be pre-configured. You should see the information in there as long as it's using enough resources and the user is actively using it. The data could be collected. And then on the CloudReady side, you can configure your synthetic should imitate what a user is doing, right? So whether it's going through a proxy or whatever, you want to configure the sensor to also do that. That way it's emulating exactly how a user would be accessing a resource, and you get that true visibility that way. If you, it just makes things more realistic to what a user would be experiencing. So you want to pass it through those things. They're using a VPN. When they're doing something, you want that sensor to also use the VPN. If that makes sense.
Perfect. So we don't have any other questions right now. We do have some more time. If somebody wants to submit one, we'll hang on for a couple of minutes. But so that was all that we had for submitted questions. And as a note, I did mention it earlier, but if you want any of these surveys or to see the results or anything along those lines, feel free to reach out to Simon or myself. We can get that information over to you. We only covered some of the metrics today. The surveys were pretty in depth, so we'd be happy to share that with you if you want to learn some more. All right, Simon, it doesn't look like we're getting any last minute questions here.
No, I don't see anything coming through either. Well, that's awesome. Well, yeah, if any other questions come up or you want to reach out to us, schedule some time to review dashboards or anything like that, definitely do so. We really appreciate everyone joining today.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. As I'm saying, thank you all for joining today's call. And feel free to reach out for any additional information or any questions on any of this. Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.